welcome to the kitchen. Today we're making Nigerian okra soup. Here we have some fresh okra, and here are our ingredients. I need a catfish. So our first step is we're going to place a large pot with the catfish head and body, and then on the cutting board we're going to chop an onion in half and add to the pot along with salt, black pepper, bouillon powder, and boil for about 60 minutes. All right, so here is our catfish head. My husband went fishing in a freshwater lake and caught a large catfish. So here's the head, there's the eyes. All right, so here is our head. Now you can see the whiskers. I took it out of the Ziploc bag. There's the eye. See how long these whiskers are? Look at that. All right, so we're gonna put the catfish head in there. All right, and there's the meat of the catfish and the head. All right, so I've added our salt and pepper, and I'm gonna add our chopped onion. I've already got the heat on, and our catfish is still a little bit frozen. I'm gonna add 8 cups of water, and I'm gonna add 1 vegetable bouillon cube. I didn't have powdered bouillon. And then we're gonna cover this and cook it for 1 hour. So this catfish is so big that I actually ended up needing 16 cups of water. All right, and we're gonna cover it and boil it for 6 minutes. Remove the bones. So here's part of the bones. You have to remove the bones from the catfish and separate the meat. And so like here's a piece of meat. We need to flake that up because this is what's going to go into the soup. So we need to just remove the skin and the bones. So here's a big piece. You can see how big this fish was. Quite enormous. So we gotta remove all of this. And then the liquid that's at the bottom is our stock. So then we're gonna strain that through a strainer and reserve it for when we make it with all the okra. This is gonna take a while. We got a lot of meat to pick out from here and remove the bones. All right, so here is our catfish. These are the bones. I'm removing the actual fish. So what you need to do is, luckily it falls apart pretty easily since it was boiling for so long. So you just take a segment of it and you just start to remove the actual meat. You want to remove the skin. The skin is very tough. It's very rubbery, sort of like the skin of a shark. But here's all the meat. So then you just want to flake the meat like tuna fish, okay? And you just want to flake it to make sure there's no bones. So we're just removing the meat off of the carcass, off of the bones, so you can see. All right. And you want to make doubly sure there's no bones, because look, you've got some of these bones, they're pretty long, and you don't want anybody to eat that by mistake, so that's why you have to flake the fish. Oops. All right, so make sure you're removing all of the bones and then flaking the fish, because there's small ones too, so it's a bit of an annoying process, so that takes time. All right, so we're straining out all of the fish that's remaining in our pot, and that will be our stock. So that'll be our fish stock for our soup. And then we can go through here too. See, there's still some pieces of fish, so we can go through and weed that out, all right? And we'll clean this all up, and that is our stock base for our soup. Here is our broth, and fish meat is at the bottom. And in another pan, we're going to saute our onions. And we're gonna use the palm oil. If you don't have the palm oil, you can use olive oil or canola oil. So we're gonna do 2 tablespoons of the palm oil to start this. And then we're gonna add in our onions. This has a very distinct flavor, which will really make this a traditional Nigerian. I'm going to saute those until they are light golden, and then we will add in our red peppers. I've added the red peppers and our okra, and we're sauteing both. We'll cook those for a while, maybe 5 minutes, and then we'll add in our broth. I've added our broth and our catfish, and I also added a teaspoon of kosher salt, half teaspoon of black pepper, half teaspoon of cayenne pepper, half teaspoon of white pepper, and 1 teaspoon of ground ginger. So I'm gonna let this cook for a while, and when it's reduced a bit, I'm gonna add in the shrimp, and that's how we'll finish it off. Our soup has been cooking for over an hour, and if you notice, I did not cut up the okra because I personally do not care for the slimy mucilage texture of cooked okra, and one of the ways to cut down on that is to not cut it. However, since we are having a soup, I do want it to be manageable, that we don't need a fork and a knife to eat this. So I will remove the okra and cut it up now and replace it. Also, I have our shrimp, and our shrimp is right here. These are rather large shrimp, so I'm gonna cut them into smaller pieces and then put them into the soup and finish cooking it. I cut up all the okra and returned it back to our soup, and now I'm gonna add in our shrimp. These shrimp are really nice and large, so I'm feeding high schoolers, so I have to stretch it, so I cut them into 3s. If you're making this for home, I would not recommend cutting up your beautiful shrimp, or in a restaurant, you would keep your shrimp whole so the presentation looks really good. And we're also going to add some dried shrimp. Now, our recipe originally called for ground crayfish, and I was not able to find that. So what I did find, though, was dried shrimp. This was at the Indian store where I found the palm oil. And so I'm gonna add a tablespoon of this also to our soup to give it some more flavor. Here is our finished okra soup with shrimp and catfish. And we are going to put them in the containers, and then we took orders for our soup business for our class, and we're selling them to our staff for lunch. So we made a whole bunch of orders, and we're packaging them in these pint containers with the lid. And then people have reserved and ordered them ahead of time, and then we hand them out to those who did. And what they do in return is actually bring in some ingredients for us to make another batch of our soup to then hand out to our students. So I wanted to show you the locust beans that came. I ordered them on Amazon, and they're really quite pungent. So I chose not to put them into the soup. One second. Okay, so this is what they look like. They're small and dried out. The only problem is that they are really, really pungent. They smell like a mix of fish and chocolate. So rather unusual, and I'm sure, in the soup, it may have given it some umami flavor intensive, but next time I make it, I'll try it, but this time I did not. I just decided that was way too strong for our population to enjoy. High school students probably don't want to try it, so I didn't put it in. But if you are at home making this soup, this is the traditional Nigerian ingredient that does go into it. So I do recommend you explore and try it. The next time I make the soup, I will use this to see what the flavor is. Let's recap. We had 25 pieces of okra, 8 ounces of shrimp, or 1.5 cups. I had a catfish, and it was cleaned. We separated the head from the body, boiled it in 16 cups of water, and then we sauteed a large onion in 2 tablespoons of water. And I did not use the locust beans. We sauteed the bell peppers, added bouillon powder. I was not able to find the ground crayfish, so instead I used 1 tablespoon of dried shrimp. We used 1 teaspoon of cayenne, and then over here I redid the seasonings. 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, 1/2 teaspoon of black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of white pepper, 1 teaspoon of ground ginger, 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne, and 1 teaspoon of table salt, 1 clove of garlic, 1 teaspoon of thyme, and at the very end we added half of a lemon, the juice of half of a lemon. And here is our finished soup. So I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll experiment and try this Nigerian okra soup. Thanks everybody, take care. For more recipe demonstrations, please click like and subscribe to Chef Victoria Loves YouTube channel and have fun in the kitchen. Thank you.